Strange things are happening all over the world and people are catching it all on camera. Skies splitting in half, rivers running red, the ground swallowing everything, and animals mutating in ways no one can identify. And here's the unsettling part. All of it had been prophesied, so let's find out. A man stepping out to his car at a shopping plaza in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, had no idea what was about to hit him. The sky opened up and started throwing chunks of ice the size of golf balls straight down onto everything. Cars, asphalt, drainage grates, nothing was spared. He grabbed his phone and started recording, his hands shaking as the hail bounced all around his feet. He stayed under a shed and waited for the hail to stop and shared the clip on Instagram, but the viewers dismissed it as a hoax.
It's breaking everything! Heads up, holy!
Shelf cloud. A fisherman out on the water off the coast of Pensacola, Florida, pulled out his phone when he saw something that stopped him cold. Hanging right above the ocean was what looked like a massive white wall falling from the sky. A thick, flat shelf of cloud stretching as far as he could see in both directions. It wasn't moving like a normal storm. It was just sitting there, low and heavy, like the sky had a ceiling and it was caving in. Scientists call it a shelf cloud, which happens when cold air pushes under warm, humid air over the Gulf. Sky turned dark. We'd tell you what's next, but honestly, you need to see it yourself. Like this video and stay locked in. It's only getting stranger from here. A driver sitting at a red light in Mesquite, Texas, on February 28, 2026, noticed the evening sky was getting darker faster than it should. Within seconds, he realized it wasn't clouds, it was birds. Thousands and thousands of them, blackbirds and starlings, flooded every inch of sky above the intersection, covering the power lines so densely they looked like thick black rope, circling in waves that blocked out the evening light. Ornithologists call it a murmuration, a mass flocking behavior triggered by temperature shifts and migration patterns. But it feels like a warning that something in nature is deeply out of order. Frightening cloud. A man standing at his apartment window in San Antonio, Texas, was watching the sunset when the sky turned into something he couldn't explain. Buried inside a massive dark storm cloud was a glowing, disc-shaped light. It was bright, round, and pulsing right there above the city skyline. The horizon below burned a deep orange, which made the whole scene look almost too dramatic to be real. There were also two glowing spots in the center, which looked as if something was watching over the city. When the clip went viral on TikTok, most viewers immediately called it out as CGI, but he was not convinced. Beam strike. A man on the 21st floor of his apartment building in Rancagua, Chile, heard a strange sound outside and rushed to the window to see what was happening. A razor-thin beam of intense white light was shooting down from the sky, striking deep into the city blocks below and exploding into a burst of bright yellow light. The streets and rooftops were calm in every direction except that one spot. It looked as if something above the clouds was deliberately targeting the city. Officials later blamed a transformer explosion, but no one was convinced of this explanation. Multiple suns. A tourist, standing beneath palm trees in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, pointed his camera at the sky and captured something that made no sense at all. Spread across the thick gray clouds were multiple glowing orbs, 3 large ones glowing warm orange, 1 bright white, and several smaller ones scattered between, hovering and flickering among the clouds. He kept recording them until they stayed visible. To identify what they actually were, he shared the video on Instagram, and the viewers brushed it off as a CGI. Ground eruption. A farmer outside Lubbock, Texas, was checking his flooded fields when something unexpected happened. The ground in front of him suddenly burst open. A thick streak of muddy water shot straight up into the air, pulling irrigation hoses off the surface like they were made of paper. He grabbed his phone and started recording because he had never seen anything like it. It kept happening for a while, and then everything settled down. Later, he showed this clip to his father, who claimed that the pressure had been building underground for days, and when the soil above finally gave way, everything came up with it. Forest geyser. A tourist exploring the forests of the Congo Basin in Central Africa was walking through a small village clearing when the red soil in front of him cracked open without any warning. A massive streak of water blasted straight up into the sky, taller than the surrounding banana trees, roaring loud enough to drown out every other sound. Locals gathered around it, stunned, keeping their distance as the water flooded the red earth beneath their feet. Nobody drilled there, nobody triggered it. Out of curiosity, he asked one local who claimed deep underground pressure had been building silently for years and the earth simply ran out of patience. Blood River. A tourist, standing on the Bolta Bridge over the Rimac River in Lima, Peru, looked down and could not believe what he was seeing. The entire river had turned deep red, rushing through the city channel like something had bled into it from the mountains above. Curious, he asked one of the locals, who claimed that what turned the Rimac red was a heavy rainfall upstream that swept iron oxide-rich red clay soil straight down into the river. The minerals dissolved into the water, staining every drop of water a vivid crimson. Sky spiral.
What the is that?
A couple standing at their apartment window in Chicago, Illinois, on the night of February 21st, 2026, noticed a glowing point above the city skyline that was behaving strangely. The object began spinning and releasing swirling trails of light, which then expanded outward into perfect concentric rings, growing wider and wider. The rings then shifted into a vast circle of individual lights, rotating slowly around a central glowing core. They were not sure whether it was some kind of projection, something far more mysterious. Frog rain.
Oh my God.
A man living in Cuiabá, Brazil, stepped on his porch to capture the rain, but was left stunned to see something falling from the sky. They were frogs, dozens of them lying across the road and scattered across the pavement. Her neighbor was already in the yard, pointing upward in disbelief. She grabbed her phone and filmed this scene. Later, she shared the clip with one of his meteorologist friends, who claimed that raining frogs is a real phenomenon. Powerful waterspouts and tornadoes can suck up entire groups of small animals from lakes and rivers and carry them miles before dropping them all at once.
They're literally falling from the sky!
Fungus gnat larvae. A man walking out to his car on his way to work in Gainesville, Florida, stopped mid-step when he spotted something stretched across the pavement that made him crouch down for a closer look. What he thought was a thick, dark rope turned out to be hundreds of fungus gnat larvae, tiny, worm-like creatures, packed together so tightly and moving in such perfect unison that they formed one long, shifting mass crawling across the concrete. Fungus gnat larvae do this when their soil becomes oversaturated, forcing them to the surface and pushing them to move together in groups. Station of locusts.
My God.
She's just like, no.
A man and his wife pulled into a gas station off Interstate 10 in Beaumont, Texas, late at night to fill up the tank when they saw this. Every single surface around them was covered. The pumps, the pillars, the concrete, the canopy overhead, all of it buried under a living blanket of locusts. Thousands more were swarming through the air around the lights. The Bible's book of Revelation describes locust plagues as one of the signs before the final hour, and this sight feels like something had already begun.
This is nuts.
Rock experiment. A researcher in Tucson, Arizona, placed a small meteorite fragment on a stone surface and poked it with something. The rock looked completely ordinary at first, dark, rough, unremarkable. Then something changed. A column of violet-blue flame shot straight up from the surface, glowing hot at the base with deep orange, crackling as the minerals locked inside began combusting. Scientists call it ablation, the same process that makes meteors streak across the sky at night. Ground swallowed everything. A security camera in Hualien, Taiwan, was rolling at 2:13 p.m. on February 27, 2026, when the ground beneath the parking lot opened up without warning. A parked white car tilted forward and dropped straight into the void. The stone garden wall crumbled into it, trees fell sideways, and the entire surface just collapsed inward like it was never solid to begin with. When this footage was shared online, one of the commenters suggested it was a sinkhole. What's unsettling is how many of these sudden collapses have been recorded worldwide this year, swallowing roads, cars, and buildings in seconds, which means the Earth underneath us is becoming less and less stable. Meteor crater. A passenger on a flight crossing over northern Arizona pressed his phone against the window when something below caught his attention. Carved into the flat desert outside Winslow was a round, bowl-shaped hole, nearly a mile wide and 55 feet deep. It looked as if land had been punched from above. Out of curiosity, he researched it and found that this is Barringer Meteor Crater, formed roughly 50,000 years ago when a rock from space slammed into Earth at 28,000 miles per hour. Sky jellyfish.
Oh my God, what is that?
A man walking out of a shopping plaza in Huntsville, Alabama, noticed something drifting above the tree line that left him with his jaw dropped. He pointed his phone upward and hit the record. Floating high in the clear blue sky was a dark object unlike anything he had seen before. It had a rounded top with long, thin tendrils hanging beneath it, slowly shifting as it moved. It had the shape of a jellyfish, but suspended hundreds of feet in the air does not make sense. He shared the clip on Instagram, and it was picked up by several UFO archive pages, and nobody could agree on what it was.
Oh my God, what is that?
The church sign.
Анатольевна, мы вот сами не можем поверить.
A tourist was walking through the streets of Providence, Rhode Island, late one night when he pointed his phone toward the steeple of an old lit-up church tower. The sky above it was heavy with dark clouds, and what appeared next stopped him where he stood. A massive glowing cross slowly materialized in the clouds above the building, a full vertical beam and a clean horizontal arm, soft white light radiating outward against the dark gray sky. It remained there as if projected from somewhere above the clouds. Onlookers called it a divine sign, but if you have any other possible explanation, write in the comments section.
И вот здесь вот такое чудо.
Lightning strike. A resident in Norman, Oklahoma, stepped outside during a storm when lightning struck a tree just a few yards ahead of him. He caught the whole thing on camera. The bolt hit the trunk with a blinding white flash, split it straight down the middle, and sent smoke and sparks tearing through the air in every direction. Within seconds, the tree came down across the road, crushing the car parked beneath it. He shared the clip on Instagram, where viewers debated it as a sign before the final apocalypse. Firefall. A hiker standing at the base of El Capitan in Yosemite National Park, California, raised his camera toward the granite cliff and could not believe what was pouring down it. A waterfall was flowing from the top of the rock face, but it was not clear. It was glowing deep orange and red, cascading down the dark stone like liquid fire straight out of the Earth's core. The scene looked pulled directly from hell. What he captured was horsetail fall at sunset, a phenomenon that happens only a few days each February when the setting sun hits the waterfall at a precise angle, turning the water into what looks like a river of molten lava. Falling star. A man driving along an empty highway outside Portland, Oregon, before sunrise on the 21st of June, 2018, had his dashcam running when he spotted this. The sky ahead was calm, pale orange at the horizon, nothing unusual. Then a bright white beam tore downward through the atmosphere at a speed that left no time to react. It cut clean across the sky and vanished in seconds. Curious, he shared the clip on Instagram where one of the commenters suggested that it might be a falling star. Flare of light. A woman was walking back to her car in the parking lot of a shopping center in Scottsdale, Arizona, making a vlog for her followers on a regular evening out, when something lit up the sky above her and stopped her mid-sentence. She spun the camera upward just in time to catch a glowing flare tearing through the darkness overhead before it vanished into the night. She turned the camera back to her friend, visibly shaken, who said it might be a meteorite, And this means the meteors in the sky are breaking one by one before the end. Debris from space. This one genuinely freaked me out, because meteorite strikes have been increasing through 2026 in a way that is hard to ignore. Two clips came from Minas Gerais, Brazil. The first showed the ground cracked open and glowing deep red at night, with molten debris. The second showed a man crouching over a freshly landed fragment still pink and radiating heat. Both pieces came from the same meteorite that broke apart.
This shit literally just landed right next to us.
Fireball. A home security camera mounted on a house in Columbus, Ohio, was recording a still, cold winter night when the entire sky suddenly turned white. A massive fireball appeared overhead, so bright it lit up every house, every bare tree, and every parked car on the street as if it were midday. The family inside was asleep and missed it entirely. It held in the sky for several seconds before slowly dimming and disappearing. When the homeowner checked his footage the next morning, he had no explanation for what it was, so he shared the clip with us to ask you people if you have any guesses. Cloud's figure. A hiker making his way up the trails of Brasstown Bald Mountain in northern Georgia was left shocked when he looked out over the valley and saw something forming in the sky he couldn't make sense of. Rising from the clouds was a massive white figure, shaped like a human, arms slightly raised, with a flat glowing disc of cloud sitting right above its head like a halo. When he shared the clip on Instagram out of curiosity, one commenter suggested it was pareidolia, the brain tricking itself into seeing faces and figures in random shapes. But the question is, pareidolia is a mental trick. It happens in your head. So how exactly does a camera capture it too? Crow's invasion.
I'm getting attacked by birds.
A woman leaving a Walmart in Texarkana, Texas, stepped into the parking lot and found herself in the middle of something deeply unsettling. Thousands of blackbirds had descended on the area at once, covering car rooftops, lampposts, the store's roof ledge, and nearly every inch of asphalt around her. The sky above was so thick with them that it nearly blocked out the light. They swooped low over cars, landing and taking off in waves. She filmed the whole thing from inside her vehicle, too afraid to step outside. Later, she shared the clip with an ornithologist friend who claimed this was actually a form of protest behavior by the birds, helping them identify the exact cause of another bird's loss and avoid it in the future.
It's ridiculous.
Stormy face. A man was standing in his backyard in Traverse City, Michigan, watching a storm roll in over the pine trees when he noticed something in the clouds that made him freeze. The dark mass rising above the tree line had taken the shape of a massive human face, a full side profile, with a forehead, nose, and jaw carved out of the storm itself. He was convinced that it might be the god of thunder, but I would like to know your opinion on it. Cavum clouds.
Viens pas me dire que c'est normalisé.
A resident filming from his balcony in Nîmes, France, captured something that looked less like weather and more like a hard boundary between two different worlds. The sky was split down the middle with a perfectly straight vertical edge, one side covered in a thick, textured blanket of white cloud, the other side completely clear blue. The line between them was razor sharp, as if someone had drawn it with a ruler. He panned the camera back and forth several times, clearly trying to make sense of what he was seeing. He searched on Google and identified it as cavum clouds, which occur when an aircraft passes through supercooled clouds.
Alors, qu'il est...
UFO sighting. A man filmed this from a rooftop overlooking the city of Memphis, Tennessee, one night as a heavy storm pushed in over the skyline. At first, the sky looked like any other stormy night. Dark rolling clouds, city lights below, nothing unusual. Then a bolt of lightning lit up the entire cloud cover from behind, and for just one split second, it revealed something that had been hiding up there the whole time. A large, disc-shaped object sat motionless behind the clouds, fully visible only because the lightning backlighted it. The moment the flash vanished, it disappeared back into the darkness. Portal opening. A hiker was walking alone down a narrow trail in Hocking Hills, Ohio, filming the path ahead when something appeared in the middle of the road. A sharp, cross-shaped burst of white light materialized out of thin air, hovering just above the ground. It pulsed and shifted as he moved closer, never fully disappearing. The surrounding forest was completely still. It looked as if a portal was opening for something, but nothing appeared. He kept walking toward it, and it kept drifting just ahead, as if leading him somewhere. When the clip circulated on Instagram, the viewers dismissed it as a hoax. Bubble sky.
Look at this. They're not even moving it.
A man in Middlesbrough, England, was out for a walk one evening and found the entire sky had turned into something that looked nothing like clouds. Hanging low above the rooftops were dozens of enormous, dark, rounded pouches, each one perfectly swollen and separate, packed tightly together across the full stretch of the sky like a ceiling of dark bubbles. These are called mammatus clouds, and they form when cold air pockets, loaded with ice crystals, sink downward from the base of a massive storm cell, each pouch holding its round shape as it drops.
I've never seen this guy do this. This is wrong.
Unknown organism.
As promised, I just caught this thing.
A man walking along a sidewalk in Savannah, Georgia, spotted something dark and wet lying on the concrete that stopped him cold. He crouched down and began filming. The object was jet black and covered in a leathery surface, having a lobed structure, rounded bulges pressed tightly together, glistening under the sun. A deep purple liquid had spread out beneath it onto the pavement. He freed it from the thread of the fishing rod, but could not identify what it actually was.
There you go.
Black gold. A man in Midland, Texas, USA, decided to spend his afternoon clearing out the dry, overgrown patch behind his house. But when he started breaking through the sun-baked red soil, something dark and thick began seeping up from below. He pushed the shovel deeper, and the black liquid started pooling out steadily, spreading across the dirt around the hole. He grabbed his phone and filmed it. He reported it to the authorities shortly after. Geologists who examined the site confirmed it was a natural petroleum reserve running beneath the property. The land was seized, closed off to the public, and has remained government property ever since. Swamp figures. A trail camera mounted near the swamp outside Breaux Bridge, Louisiana, USA, to track the movements of deer, caught something strange. The water was flat and dark, tall trees standing bare along the far bank. The whole scene was completely motionless. Then, smoky figures appeared on the water's surface, drifting side by side slowly, hovering just a few feet over the water. The owner checked the footage and could not shake the feeling that it might be some otherworldly beings making rounds over the water. Breathing sand. A beachgoer walking along the shore near Padre Island, Texas, noticed that the dry sand at his feet was moving on its own. He crouched down and started filming. The sand was bubbling up from below, slow at first, then faster, pushing upward as if something underneath was breathing. He picked up 2 bricks lying nearby and placed them on it, but they were swallowed up. After filming it for a while, he left, thinking there might be a gas pipe leak beneath the surface, creating the illusion of breathing sand. Dust devil. A group of visitors at Sam Houston National Forest in Texas were walking through a dry clearing when the air between the trees suddenly came alive. Thousands of leaves lifted off the ground all at once and began spinning in a tight swirl, rising higher than the treetops. One of them identified it as a dust devil, a natural vortex that forms when a pocket of hot air near the ground rises rapidly and cooler air rushes in from the sides, spinning faster as it tightens. It lasted less than a minute, then dropped everything and vanished. Split sky. A man stepping out of his office in Portland, Oregon, noticed something strange cutting through the dusk sky that stopped him mid-step. A straight line of white light was rising vertically from the cloud line all the way into the sky, slicing the sky in 2 parts. One side of the sky was all clear while the other was cloudy. What he was looking at was a phenomenon called a crepuscular shadow, where a thick bank of clouds on the horizon blocks the setting sun on one side while the other side stays fully lit. Mysterious creature. A resident in Panama City made his way down to his flooded basement after a heavy rainfall, and what he found at the bottom of the stairs stopped him cold. Floating in the murky green water was a dark, mass-like creature, slowly moving through the water as if it were alive. No fins, no visible face, just a dense, shifting form that didn't belong to anything familiar. If you have any idea, write down in the comments section. Orange sky. One Saturday night, a man stepped out of a club in Hempstead, Long Island, New York, and froze in the parking lot because the entire sky above him was flickering, pulsing with deep orange light that kept shifting in intensity. The sky was brighter 1 second and dimmer the next, like something beneath the clouds was switching on and off. He filmed the sight and shared the clip on Instagram, where one of the commenters suggested that what caused it might be an upcoming storm, with lightning flashing repeatedly inside the clouds above. Smoky ring? A man stopped at a tuck shop with his son in Hagerstown, Maryland, when the boy tugged his sleeve and pointed at the sky. A dark ring of smoke was drifting silently above the shopping plaza, holding its circular form against the clouds. Curious, the man asked a nearby security guard, who pointed toward the hills and said a paper mill funnel a few miles out had been releasing pressure blasts all evening. Those blasts push smoke out in a tight circular shape that locks into a vortex ring, staying intact as it travels miles through the air. Deep sea portal. A marine biologist diving off the coast of Kefalonia, Greece, was surveying the ocean floor when his dive light revealed something on the seabed that left him stunned. Cut into the sandy bottom was a circular dark opening, its walls dropping straight down into absolute darkness with no visible bottom. He hovered above it and filmed it from every angle. It looked as though it were a gateway to another universe. When he returned, he informed the authorities, but when they investigated, they found only darkness and still could not measure its depth. Ghost ship? A man aboard a ship crossing the icy waters off the coast of Newfoundland was sitting by the cabin window during a rough, foggy crossing when something drifted into view that made no sense. Out in the freezing water, moving slowly through floating chunks of ice, was a tall wooden sailing vessel, 3 masts, no engine, no crew visible, the kind that hasn't sailed these waters in over a century. He pressed his phone against the glass and filmed it until the fog swallowed it whole. Nobody else on board could explain what that ship was doing out there or where exactly it disappeared to. Sky foam?
Awan!
A villager walking through the rice fields in Cianjur, West Java, Indonesia, looked up when strange dark masses started dropping from the sky without any warning. At first, they looked like rocks, but what actually landed around him were enormous clumps of dark, bubbly foam, soft, textured, covering the fields and settling along the village alleyways like sky had spilt from above. Curious, he searched on Google and came to know that powerful storm winds can lift sea foam and carry it miles inland before dropping it all at once. Open discussion. On the 10th of March, 2026, a man filming the evening sky from his apartment window in Charlotte, North Carolina, noticed something deeply unsettling forming in the clouds above the city. 2 glowing orbs sat side by side behind a break in the cloud cover. Both were equally bright, round, staring down like a pair of eyes. The clouds around them create an illusion of a figure looking over the city. He called his grandfather, who said it was a sundog, a rare optical phenomenon where ice crystals in the atmosphere refract sunlight and create 2 mirror images of the sun on either side of it. Scientists have a name for it. But looking at that footage in 2026, with every prophecy pointing to this year, 2 suns in the sky feels less like weather and more like a final sign. That's a wrap on today's weird corner of the world. If any of this got to you, even a little, leave it in the comments. Like, subscribe, and come back tomorrow. We've already got something lined up that'll make today look tame. Thank you so much for watching.
This sight appeared over Inglewood, Los Angeles, and shocked hundreds of people. The cloud was hanging in the sky with a light flickering inside it. Then, with a sudden thunderous sound, something passed through, as if a UFO was making rounds over the Earth. I've never seen a phenomenon like this before, so I want you to see it too. The sky turned pink. This vibrant weather event is called a pink blizzard, and it happens due to Rayleigh scattering. As clouds and fresh snow reflect and scatter the longer pink wavelengths of light, I think this video is one of the strangest ever captured on camera. The sky began to form circular shapes that were glowing bright orange, and their movement was almost surreal.
It's moving again.
Water and fire together may sound contradictory, but something like this happened on Mocha Island in Chile. What do you think caused this to happen? This might cause serious trouble for him while recording. Something glowing white was moving in the distance, and its light was flickering. After traveling a short distance, the glow faded, then suddenly shot straight into the sky, like a falling star returning to the sky. The workers at a construction site in Hapangta, Myanmar, started running without looking back, leaving their equipment behind as if they had awakened something terrifying. But in reality, this site was known for landslides after rain. This might be one of the strangest yet most mesmerizing optical illusions out there. Did you figure out what's happening here? Comment down below. These people were visiting the Holta Canyon in Albania, but they never expected something like this to happen.
بالازدياد ويخرج عليهم وكأنه يهاجمهم انظروا سبحان الله.
What do you think caused the water level to surge?
بالازدياد ويخرج عليهم وكأنه يهاجمهم انظروا سبحان الله.
This group of friends was hiking in the mountains of Haripur, Bangladesh, when something unsettling happened. As they lit a matchstick and held it close to the ground, it began emitting a blue and orange glow. A world in despair. On August 31, 1997, millions turned on their TVs to hear something they couldn't believe. Behind the desk at Sky News, Kay Burley was the one who had to deliver one of the worst news imaginable, not just for the country, but for the entire world.
Confirmation from our very own Foreign Secretary, Robin Cook, who's in the Far East at the moment, that Diana, Princess of Wales, has in fact been killed in that car accident.
Princess Diana, the only royalty that won the hearts of millions across the globe, had been involved in a car incident in Paris. Diana, alongside her partner, Dodi Fayed, and the driver, Henri Paul, all sadly passed away. The world didn't know all the details yet, but in those early minutes, no one could believe what they were hearing.
Princess Diana
Oh, she died.
Where's the remote?
Oh my God. Get it loud.
There have been countless theories as to what may have happened, with conspiracy theories that involved members of the royal family. But all of them shared one thing in common. The world had just lost a part of its kindness. Debate gone wild. In the middle of a live political debate in Georgia, things got weird fast. 1 second, Zaza Agladze was arguing his point. The next, he tossed a glass of water straight at his opponent. Irakli Glonti. Without missing a beat, Glonti threw his own drink back. What was meant to be a serious discussion turned into a live splash fight, complete with broken chairs and soaked clothes. Rain sometimes brings unwanted dangers with it. People were confined to their homes as this terrifying snake was floating in the rainwater that had flooded the town. No one could have imagined a secret underwater base, but now it seems to have become a reality after this surprising clip appeared online. These women were walking through Pasir Ris Park in Singapore when they captured this bright purple entity on their camera.
Stop the recording.
It was gliding through the air, and strange streaks of light were emitting from it before vanishing, as if it were an electric spirit.
Stop the recording.
An unexplainable sight was caught right outside this person's house.
Oh my god, that was amazing.
You may have seen one moon in the sky, but this clip shows 4. This is called paraselene, a rare atmospheric optical phenomenon where moonlight refracts through ice crystals in high-altitude clouds, producing bright, sometimes rainbow-colored spots on either side of the moon and creating an optical illusion for onlookers.
God.
This man was filming the thunderstorm when this shocking phenomenon occurred.
God.
I believe this video will change the way you think about nature, but keep watching. It happened again somewhere else, and I gave an explanation on that visual. This clip made many people believe that blood rain was turning everything red and signaling an impending apocalypse. But like I said previously, I'm going to explain it. The red color was caused by soil rich in iron oxide. When rainwater washed this soil into the sea, it created a fluid mixture that made everything look frightening. These are the strangest rocks I've ever seen. A man was freaked out in Austin, Texas after witnessing this unbelievable moment.
Look at that. Look at that. That's fucking huge.
The cloudy sky formed a glowing circle, as if a portal were opening. After a while, things became even more shocking when a natural streak of yellow light was seen cutting across the sky and coming toward the ground.
Whoa! What? Holy fucking moly.
2 friends were out for a nighttime walk in a park in Houston, Texas, when they spotted this frightening owl.
¿Cuánto cuesta ese animalito?
Esa bestia así como está como usted la de 50 millones de pesos.
50 millones de pesos.
A cargo ship was sailing near the Bermuda Triangle when something unexpected happened. Flying objects appeared in the sky. They were disc-shaped, emitting blue and pink lights as they moved toward the ship. At first, there were only 2 of them, but soon several others hovered above the sea. I can't understand how this wooden ship ended up in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, so I'm asking you. There wasn't a single person on board, just the ship sailing through the rough waves of the sea. He heard a strange thundering sound, so he kept recording and captured this peculiar sighting. The cloudy sky suddenly lit up with a bright orange glow. The glow was faint at first, but then it reached its peak and was enough to keep him awake until dawn. What if the stories you were told about mermaids are not true at all? This woman was filming the sea view at Costa del Sol in Spain when these creatures terrified her. There were 5 of them, with black bodies. But what really shocked her were their fish-like tails, even though they had arms and heads like humans.
¡Agua! ¡Es un dragón! ¡Me están sacando del agua!
Sometimes we can't believe what we're seeing in real life.
Look, Tessa, look! Oh my God, that is no drone!
It was a green, circular shape in the sky with a blue, blinking light in the middle. It suddenly disappeared into the clouds, then reappeared again and kept growing bigger and bigger, making us think it was something otherworldly.
What in the world am I watching, bruh?
The figure you're looking at could turn you to stone, because this is Medusa, captured standing on top of the cliff. There were snakes on her head instead of hair. She screamed at them when she realized she was being filmed, and, to avoid any trouble, they immediately ran away. Among the many strange sky phenomena caught on camera, this one over a highway in Boston, US, left many people stunned. It showed a circular, disc-shaped formation in the sky, creating an eerie illusion for witnesses, but in reality, it was a lenticular cloud, and if you know, write in the comments how they form. Passengers on the plane were shocked to see this mystical scene when white, glowing particles appeared outside the window. It looked like the plane was flying through a galaxy, but it was not. These particles were actually water droplets sliding off the window during takeoff. Watch this video first, and then share your opinion in the comments about what appeared in the sky over Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, USA.
Texas.
Hunting in the jungles of Siberia in winter is no joke. A hunter found himself in a wild situation when he spotted this.
It's state land. First time I've ever seen a tree like that on fire. Real random. Hollowed out on the bottom, maybe somebody tried to make a fire in it.
A normal hike turned into a terrifying encounter in the rugged mountains of the Philippines.
¿Hay algo moviéndose ahí? ¿Son reptiles?
Está empujando algo grande.
Below the cliff were frightening creatures with reptile-like bodies and hardtails, standing on two legs and rolling something wrapped in a plastic sheet and tied with ropes into the caves.
¿Reptiles?
Está empujando algo grande.
Are dinosaurs still roaming Earth, or just their descendants? Tourists filmed these creatures in Alaska, following each other along the bank of Bekkeroff Lake, and were left stunned. If you haven't watched this clip yet, then you're on the right channel. These hunters came across this weird bird lying on the ground with sharp claws and a sharp beak. It tried to fly, but couldn't.
Did you see that?
It was a strange formation in the sky, and wave-like vibrations were coming from it. When the camera zoomed in, it became a horrifying, wide-open mouth with one glowing eye, which suddenly dissolved into smoke. High above Tbilisi, Georgia, these glowing flying objects appeared out of nowhere and left thousands of people online stunned. They hovered at incredible speed, forming a vertical line and then chasing one another. It makes you think that UFOs might be real, and they visit our skies when no one expects them. Look at this terrifying creature that tourists found in Bora Cave in the mountains of Andhra Pradesh, India. Trapped in a glass jar was a horrifying being with the green body of a snake and the pale face of a woman, with black hair, brown slit-like eyes, and sharp teeth. It looked alive, still giving us nightmares long after it was taken away by the authorities, who claimed it was Devi Manasa, a mythical being. This video reveals a hidden secret of Antarctica, so watch closely. After snow fell from a glacier, a strange formation appeared. Black, appendage-like shapes clung to the icy ceiling, resembling the head of a giant serpent waiting to cast a spell if anyone came close. You might have heard about natural geysers, but this scene was quite different. Several rocks were gushing water from the cracks, creating a scene just like an uncontrollable shower. Hot springs are actually real, but this one seems too shocking to be true. This is Devil's Eye, located in the middle of the Gobi Desert, China. He was recording the stormy sky when something that defied reality appeared in the clouds.
Oh, holy fucking shit, guys.
It looked as if the light had revealed the Angel of Thunder, Ramil. After heavy rainfall in Haryana, India, the land rose 3 feet above the river, creating an astonishing moment for the witnesses. If you have any idea what caused this land to rise, write it in the comments section. Cave explorers sometimes stumble upon things they never expected.
The main thing is that in each of these holes is a spider.
This huge spider web was discovered in Albania, covered in hundreds of pores and inhabited by thousands of spiders. Imagine watching a waterfall, but the water is not actually falling. It's swirling in the air. First, watch the video.
Imagine watching a waterfall and the water is blasting upward instead of falling. That's exactly what you're seeing in this video.
As the water drops from the cliff, it evaporates quickly due to the high air pressure against the rocks, making the vapors move in a swirling pattern. You've heard stories about the duende, a mythical creature from Latin American folklore, but you've probably never seen one in real life. This eerie figure was reportedly spotted in Veracruz, Mexico, outside a house just as a couple was about to leave for lunch. Flying high above Los Angeles, California, passengers spotted a mysterious object flying beside the plane. It was a bullet-like object with a glass tip and a sky-blue trail of light streaming from its back, creating a scene that looked more like a fiction movie than reality. This video freaks me out, and I think it will freak you out too.
That's longer than the ridgeline.
Keep us at this distance. It's moving, but slowly. You can see the whole trail behind it.
Never thought I'd see something leave a scar like.
Long and huge, covered in sand, with hard patterns on its back, and moving like a serpent in the scorching desert of Dubai.
Never thought I'd see something leave a scar like that in the desert.
Record everything. No one's going to believe this unless they see it.
An astronaut captured this strange object that crashed on Mars and fueled a debate about UFOs, but the authorities are hiding the reality from us. This circular, bright ring covered in dark clouds appeared over Bandung, West Java, and left many scratching their heads as nothing like this had happened before. This tourist was visiting Mizen Head in Ireland when he captured this distressing creature lying on the beach below the cliff.
That dragon, that tail is massive, heading straight for the water. Wait.
Was it a mermaid or Something more sinister?
Oh no, it's looking right at me. Oh God, did you see how far it jumped? What was that thing?
Look at this buffalo. Grazing peacefully in Australia's lush green fields, which have horns that curve into a perfect circular shape, creating the illusion of a tire resting on its head. This bizarre horn formation makes the animal look really worth watching. Mother's revenge. Marianne Bachmeier's daughter Anna was unalived by Klaus Grabowski, and on the third day of trial, 6th March 1981, at 10 a.m., Marianne managed to bring a Beretta 70 and exacted her revenge. She emptied the clip, and all of it happened so fast that even security couldn't react in time. The video you're watching is a reconstruction of what happened and not actual footage. Later, when asked why she did it, Marianne said, "I wanted to kill him. I wanted to shoot him in the face, but I only got his back." End quote. Back in 1981, veteran investigative journalist Roger Cook was filming a report in Brighton when things took a dangerous turn.
We have a tape recording of it. Would you like to see the transcript of the tape recording? You would? Jolly good. Well, here's...
I've got 3 men broke in my shop, they're mob-handed.
They're not mob-handed.
Yeah, quick.
We've come in to answer a couple of...
Right,
ask you a couple of questions.
500-481.
Cook had been digging into a business selling high-quality fake antiques, pieces so convincing that some had already slipped through the gates of Sotheby's and Christie's, 2 of the world's most respected auction houses. Cook confronted dealer Harris Christopher George about the operation, but instead of answering, George stormed off, then came back wielding a metal bar. In front of a live television crew, he chased Cook through the street. After this, Cook required medical attention, but he recovered quickly and went back to doing what he does best. As for the fate of George's business and the counterfeit antiques, no clear outcome was ever made public. Columbia disaster.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Peter Jennings at ABC News headquarters. In the words of a flight director at NASA, it has been a bad day.
On the morning of February 1st, 2003, viewers across the U.S. tuned in to watch history unfold. Little did they know, it would unfold in the most tragic way possible. Peter Jennings, a familiar and trusted figure on ABC News, appeared on screen, clearly carrying the weight of what had just happened. The Space Shuttle Columbia, which had been scheduled to return home that morning, had broken apart during re-entry. What was supposed to be a smooth landing turned into one of the darkest moments.
Columbia was at 200,000 feet, going 12,500 miles an hour when it suddenly broke up under stress that we still do not understand. 16 minutes from home. We begin our field reporting with ABC's Ned Potter.
Jennings wasn't just reading a script, he was delivering something much heavier, a national tragedy unfolding in real time. His voice was steady, but there were moments of pauses where the gravity of the situation seemed to settle in. Game gone wrong. During a soccer game in Ethiopia, things got out of hand fast. The referee gave a goal to Defense Force SC, but the other team, Wallo, didn't take it well.
ጨዋታ አስቀድሞ ኳስን ከመረብ ጋር በማገናኘት ወልዋሎ ቀዳሚ ነበር በሪችሞንድ አዶንጎ የ22ኛ ደቂቃ ግብ አማካኝነት.
Players and coaches ran onto the field, yelling and pushing. The ref tried to protect himself with a corner flag.
ከረፍት መልስ በ83ኛው ደቂቃ ፍጹም ገብረ ማርያም ግብ አስቆጥሮ መከላከያን 2-1 እንዲመራ አስቻለም.
But one of the coaches still got to him and hit him. That coach was kicked out of the league right away, and the season was put on pause. The whole thing was caught on camera and spread all over the internet. This moment went against everything that the sport stood for. Live hostage situation. On February 8, 1977, Anthony Tony Karitsis, a real estate developer, entered the office of Richard O. Hall, president of the Meridian Mortgage Company in Indianapolis, Indiana, and took him hostage with a sawed-off 12-gauge. Tony wired it to Hall's neck with a Deadman switch from the trigger to his own neck.
First leveled the gun at me, the handgun. I looked him in the eye and I thought to myself, how can God let a man get this angry?
He forced Hall through downtown streets in near 0-degree weather. The entire time he was surrounded by police and journalists. He commandeered a police car and took Hall to drive to his Crestwood Village apartment. He told police the apartment was rigged and then chained Hall in the bathroom, holding him captive for 63 hours. Tony had purchased a 17-acre West Side property in hopes of developing a shopping center. His $130,000 mortgage with Meridian Mortgage was due on the 1st of March and accused the company of having deliberately sabotaged his project. Hall signed an agreement where he admitted to having mistreated Tony and agreed Tony will not be prosecuted or arrested.
If I stand up to him, I'm better off. If I let him roll all over me and I become a whimpering guy, it may not be to my best interest.
But 8 months later, Tony was tried on charges of kidnapping, armed robbery, and armed extortion. On October 21 of the same year, he was found not guilty by reason of insanity and was turned over to the State Department of Mental Health.
It's probably affected me more than I really imagined, but I don't have a sense that I've had a lot of psychological impact from the whole affair.
Courtroom chaos. In a Las Vegas courtroom, what started as a sentencing quickly turned into a moment no one saw coming. As Judge Mary Kay Holthus prepared to deliver her decision, Deobra Redden suddenly leapt over the defense table, then launched himself over the judge's bench. What followed looked more like a tackle than a courtroom scene. Stunned by the sudden outburst, officers and attorneys quickly rushed in to pull him off. Despite the chaos, Judge Holthus returned to work the next day, unfazed. Mr. Redden has now been sentenced to 26 to 45 years in prison. Hillsborough disaster. The steel gates at Hillsborough stood between thousands of eager fans, but within minutes, one decision would turn this sea of excitement into one of the most infamous moments in football history. On April 15, 1989, Liverpool and Nottingham Forest met for an FA Cup semi-final at Sheffield's Hillsborough Stadium. But at the Leppings Lane end, the entrance layout created a bottleneck, trapping thousands in a narrow approach outside the ground. Chief Superintendent David Duckenfield, newly appointed as match commander, made a split-second call to open Gate C to relieve the pressure. Instead of dispersing the crowd, it channeled them directly into already packed pens, setting off a chain of events that no one on the pitch could comprehend until it was already too late. Players stopped as they saw fans climbing the barriers to escape, others lying on the pitch. Emergency response was slow, hindered by poor communication and confusion. In the hours that followed, Hillsborough claimed the lives of 96 fans, and in the days after, the story took an even darker turn. Some media outlets, fed by inaccurate police briefings, wrongly placed blame on the behavior of fans. For years, survivors and relatives campaigned for justice. In 2000, a private prosecution was brought against Duckenfield and fellow officer Bernard Murray, but neither was convicted. But in 2012, the Hillsborough Independent Panel revealed that police statements had been altered to protect senior officers. So, 4 years later, the jury cleared the fans of any blame. David Duckenfield was tried for all 96 lives by gross negligence, but was not found guilty. Graham Mackerel, the Sheffield Wednesday club secretary and safety officer at the time, was found guilty and fined £6,500 over turnstile arrangements, making him the only person ever convicted over Hillsborough.
Came home to the loved ones in a wooden box. They're treated disgracefully. The vile things what are said about them, and all what we get after 30 years is £67.70 per victim.
Stadium in shambles. After Vitesse Arnhem's win over NEC Nijmegen, fans in the away section were bouncing with joy. But then part of the stand under them suddenly dropped. Dozens of fans went down with such a sound that froze the entire stadium. Everyone feared the worst, but surprisingly, and thankfully almost everyone was fine. A container underneath caught the fall. Once people realized they were safe, the cheers came back even louder. What could have been a disaster turned into a wild story about fans who literally shook the stadium. The Niagara incident. He stood at the edge of Niagara Falls, water crashing just inches away, and the only thing holding him back was his foot, jammed into a crack in the rock. In 2003, tourists watched in shock as a 59-year-old man clung to the ledge of Horseshoe Falls, completely still, soaking wet, and surrounded by mist. He had just lost everything at a casino and was drowning in debt, but even as freezing water pounded his body, he wouldn't let go. For nearly 2 hours, emergency teams battled wind and cold to reach him. One rescuer finally jumped in and pulled him to safety. Great fall-off. Asa Kyer, a famous acrobat in China, tried to walk across a tightrope blindfolded, backwards, and without any safety gear.
刚才在事前我们跟各位介绍呢，艾斯卡尔的今天的这个是在无保护状态的。那么大家看到它上面是有这个。
It was a huge challenge, 700 meters long and way up in the air. He was close to the end when strong wind and dizziness made him lose balance. Then it happened.
好，现在呢，蒙眼盗走钢丝极限挑战的直播。
People were sure it was all over, but a miracle was seen.
但艾斯卡尔到目前为止，他仍然做到。好，他继续起程。
He survived because the trees broke his fall. It was a scary moment on live TV, one that nobody will ever forget. On TV. Back in 2019, Tim Bleefnick appeared on an episode of Family Feud alongside his family. Steve Harvey asked him, "What's the biggest mistake you made at your wedding?" Tim responded with a smirk, saying, "I do."
What's the biggest mistake you made at your wedding?
Honey, I love you, but said I do. Not my mistake. I love my wife.
It was a joke that made everyone laugh, but a few years later, it would come back to haunt everyone. By early 2023, Tim and his wife, Rebecca Bleefnick, were deep into a messy divorce. There were ongoing custody battles over their children, protective orders, and growing tension between them. People close to Rebecca had started to worry about how far things might go, though no one expected it would lead to her demise. On February 23rd, 2023, Rebecca didn't show up to pick up her kids from Tim. Sometime later, her father found her on the bathroom floor and called 911. Officers arrived at her home in Quincy, Illinois, and ruled out burglary since nothing was stolen. It was personal, so they turned their attention to Tim. As they started pulling together digital records and surveillance footage, a clear picture started to form. Tim had searched online for things like how to break into a house through a second-story window, how to delete security footage, and how long residue stays on clothing. Cameras in the neighborhood showed a man riding a bicycle toward Rebecca's house the night it happened. Police recovered that exact bike, along with gloves and dark clothing hidden in Tim's basement. His phone data placed him near her home at the time. He was arrested in March of the same year and charged with homicide and home invasion. He pleaded not guilty, but prosecutors argued that this was not a crime of passion. It had been planned. The jury took just a few hours to convict him. Tim Bleefnick was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole. Live breakdown. Jessica Robb was doing a normal news report for CTV Edmonton when things suddenly went wrong. She started mixing up her words and said she wasn't feeling well.
After the day, families are pushing the feds to. Sorry, Aaron, I'm not feeling very well now, and
You could tell something was off. The screen quickly cut back to the studio, and people watching were left confused and worried. Later, Jessica said it was a personal health issue and not what some people online were guessing. She's doing okay now, but that moment really showed how live TV can take a turn without warning. Off to heaven. On April 20, 2008, Father Adelier Antonio de Carli set out from the coastal city of Paranagua, Brazil, on a journey unlike anything the locals had seen before. Seated in a simple chair and lifted by nearly 1,000 colorful helium balloons, his goal was to break the world record for balloon flight duration and raise funds to build a rest stop for truckers passing through his parish. He wore a thermal flight suit, helmet, parachute, and waterproof gear, carrying food, water, a GPS device, and a satellite phone. But as he rose to an estimated 6,000 meters, the wind shifted. Instead of pushing him toward land, it carried him out over the Atlantic Ocean. He kept in touch with air traffic control, but before long, the signal was lost. The Brazilian Navy, Air Force, local fire services, and even a plane rented by his family joined the effort, searching the waters off the Santa Catarina coastline. Small fragments of balloons were spotted floating in the sea. Days went by with no trace, and on April 24, the Air Force ended its involvement in the search, and 5 days later, the Navy as well. Then on July 4, fishermen near the city of Macaye discovered part of a body in the water. The remains had been carried far from where Atelier had vanished. After DNA tests were completed, the authorities confirmed the identity. The remains were returned to Paranagua, where a large crowd gathered to honor him with applause and a memorial mass before he was laid to rest in a chapel in Ampere. Value of truth. This is the story of Ruth Thalia Sayas, and how a moment of truth on screen turned into a case that shook a nation.
¿Estás nerviosa, Ruth Thalia?
Sí, un poco.
Ruth Thalia Sayas Sanchez appeared on the first episode of The Value of Truth, a Peruvian reality show where contestants revealed deeply personal details on air. She spoke openly about her double life, working in a nightclub, accepting money for her services.
¿Trabajas en un nightclub?
Sí.
¿Has aceptado dinero a cambio de tener relaciones sexuales?
Sí.
And, most painfully, that she loved her boyfriend only until something better comes along. That confession would be the cause of her own demise. A few months later, on September 11, 2012, Brian Romero Leyva, her boyfriend, lured her to his home under the guise of a conversation, and that was the last time she was ever seen alive. She was found inside a well on a property owned by Brian's uncle, Reddy Leyva Cerrone, in Jicamarca. In September 2012, Brian confessed, and justice, when it came, felt delayed and incomplete. 2 years later, a Peruvian court sentenced Brian Romero Leyva and his uncle Reddy Leyva Cerrone to life in prison and ordered them to pay 700,000 soles in civil reparations. But in 2021, their sentences were inexplicably reduced to 33 and 30 years. Ruth Thalia's father called the decision indignant, and Ruth paid the cost of truth. Live collision. While reporting from a high-risk intersection in Los Angeles, KTLA journalist Gene Kang was covering a recent hit-and-run incident when a new one happened behind him. Just as he warned viewers about the danger at Hoover and 84th Street, two cars drove into each other on live television. One of the drivers immediately fled the scene.
Street here, officials say it's one of the most dangerous streets in all of Los Angeles, and now
the camera kept rolling as Kang and his crew contacted emergency services and helped the people involved. A license plate from the fleeing car was recovered at the scene. Courtroom quake. In July 2008, filming for an episode of Judge Judy was suddenly interrupted by a low rumble that quickly turned into a full shake. The cameras kept rolling as the set rattled, causing the audience to look around in alarm. Even Judge Judy herself stepped away from the bench. Within seconds, the tremor eased and the room began to settle.
Well, he got your credit card, your bank card somehow, and he got your PIN number somehow.
Officials reported it to be of 5.2 magnitude that struck California, centered about 28 miles from Los Angeles, but strong enough to be felt more than 100 miles away. Thankfully, everyone was fine. Robbed on live TV. In Rio de Janeiro, a live TV interview about rising crime suddenly turned into the perfect example of the problem. The woman being interviewed was standing on a busy street, talking about the dangers in her neighborhood, a place already known for pickpockets and muggings. She was in the middle of her sentence when a hand slid across her back from behind. In one swift move, a young man tried to yank her necklace away.
A senhora sabe que essa região tá brava, né?
É, pior que é, né? Mas eu nem...
Vem cá!
She reacted just as quickly, pulling back before he could take it. The thief darted off into the crowd, disappearing before anyone could stop him. One of the crew members gave chase, but the robber was already gone. Reptilian Eyes. Uploaded in October 2018, this unsettling clip is said to have come from a Spanish news broadcast. The uploader claims it might be proof that reptilian shapeshifters are living among us. Everything seems normal until the end of the report, when the reporter blinks, and for a split second, it looks like he has a second set of eyelids. The uploader said that the reporter, thinking the camera was off, might have briefly dropped his disguise. It ties into the controversial theory made famous by former BBC sports broadcaster David Icke, who believes a hidden race of lizard-like beings walks among us.
All that apparently time ago. And there are many non-human entities that are interacting with this reality. But the theme that keeps coming to me over the years in relation to these bloodlines behind the Illuminati is of some form of reptilian entities, which are the next stage on, because it goes on beyond them, but the next stage on behind the Illuminati bloodlines and the interbreeders with them is this reptilian group.
Surprisingly, over 4% of registered American voters reportedly agree with him. This clip is unsettling, but it shows that these reptilian beings might have infiltrated other parts of our world. Shocking moment. A reporter in Seattle arrived at a park expecting to cover a regular news story, but before cameras could roll, he witnessed a man being in need of help just a few feet away.
And a news reporter was getting ready for a shoot at a park in Seattle.
Without hesitation, he ran in and pulled the suspect off the person. Bystanders called emergency services, and the victim received immediate care. The suspects had already disappeared by the time police arrived.
The reporter jumped on the suspect, pulled him off the victim, and broke up the fight. A witness called 911. The victim was treated at the scene. The suspects left before police arrived.
Sick on tour. While Justin Bieber was doing his concert on his Believe tour in Arizona, when something happened to him that made his fans worry about his health, he was walking towards the front of the stage when he turned around and this happened. The incident happened in front of thousands, leaving fans stunned. He stepped off stage briefly before returning to finish the set. The exact cause was never publicly detailed. On air collapse.
Worries today for a veteran sportscaster who had a scary medical emergency on live TV, and we should warn you, the video's upsetting.
What started as normal commentary during an Atlanta Hawks game turned serious in seconds.
Big for a 19-year-old kid. Wow.
Veteran announcer Bob Rathbun was mid-sentence when he suddenly leaned back, his body trembling in front of the live camera. Viewers were stunned, unsure if it was part of the show. Turns out it wasn't. Someone quickly rushed in, and the feed cut away.
Slumps in his chair, then starts convulsing while his co-anchor keeps going, unaware of the emergency.
Later, it was revealed that Bob had passed out from dehydration. Thankfully, quick medical attention helped him recover. Courtroom outburst. During a courtroom hearing in Chelsea, Massachusetts, the atmosphere shifted as disturbing details were revealed. Peter DeConnick, 46, stood accused after a confrontation at a trailer home led to serious charges. Prosecutors shared that his friend Ronald Russo had sustained injuries.
The report revealed that Mr. Russo did suffer 69 knife wounds to his body.
But all of this overwhelming information pushed Russo's brother, Thomas, to rush toward DeConnick in court. Security intervened quickly, with 4 officers stepping in to de-escalate. Thomas was briefly detained but released soon after. As for DeConnick, the court later handed down a life sentence. Shocking incident. There was a Pentagon press briefing when the room went from calm to concern in a matter of seconds. Air Force Major General James Martin Jr. was mid-sentence when suddenly something happened to him in front of the cameras. Military aides and staff rushed to assist.
We actually go back to... Hold on a minute. Sir, can somebody help me?
The live broadcast quickly cut away while Martin was taken for medical care. Officials later confirmed that he had experienced a sudden drop in BP and was recovering.
You okay? Okay. I'm gonna sit you down. Can I get a chair?
Yeah, a chair. Take some more. What happened?
During live concert. During a live performance by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, something unusual caught fans' attention. Flea, the band's bassist, appeared visibly frustrated, and for a moment, many assumed there was a serious issue with the performance. But lead singer Anthony Kiedis soon noticed the real problem. Flea's in-ear monitor had fallen out, disrupting his ability to hear the music clearly. It looked like a major disagreement on stage, and it was all because of a minor technical error, one that completely changed the energy of the performance. On-air clash. 19th of July, 2001. Good Day New York took a sharp turn on live TV. Reporter Dick Oliver was out in the field when anchor Jim Ryan suddenly interrupted him in the middle of the report.
Go away. That's what? Does she have a response to that? Is she still there?
What's that?
Did the lady just leave?
Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad. We should have kept that discussion.
She's back if you want her.
Yes.
She heard you.
Yes.
What'd you like to know?
Calling out his delivery in front of the entire audience. Oliver fired back immediately. The two started arguing live right there on air. The host tried to keep things moving, but the tension didn't go unnoticed. Viewers watched it all unfold with no cutaway.
Well, if I have to teach you how to be a reporter, Ollie, I'll do that later.
Why don't you do that later, Jim? I think the lady expressed herself, and you're not here, you're there. Is there any question you'd like me to ask her?
Woman behind Obama. It was supposed to be a routine speech. President Obama addressing the nation about healthcare updates with a row of supporters behind him.
And John eventually predicted that the website will work like a champ. So he was frustrated by the website.
But as he spoke, one woman standing behind him began to sway. Something was clearly wrong.
But he's feeling a little less frustrated once he found out that he was saving $900 a month on his health insurance.
Obama noticed, paused mid-sentence, and calmly reached back to steady her. With just a small gesture, he signaled for help.
To free families from the pervasive fear that one illness.
She was guided off stage within seconds. It wasn't dramatic, but the moment struck a chord.
This happens when I talk too long. You'll be okay. Here, why don't you go ski out?
Possessed Live. A live show in Thailand back in July 2016 took a turn for the worse when Thai model Thipawan Chafupuang went quiet. Not like she was thinking, but something mysterious and creepy.
ไม่อยากให้มาเลยอะ
คือเขาจะมานี่เริ่มมาแล้วใช่ไหมเขา นี่คืออะไรฮะ นี่คือเข้ามาแล้วใช่ไหมมายังใจเย็นนะฮะเป็นไรครับนี่จะเป็นอะไรอยู่
She explained that on a recent trip to Rayong, she felt something follow her back. Not a person, but what Thai folklore calls a pop, a spirit said to crave raw meat, right there on live TV. Her voice shifted, deeper and strange.
สวัสดีครับคุณเป็นใครฮะ
เฮ้ยยุ่งอะไรกับกูนักหนาจะพากูมาทำอะไรเนี่ยฮะคุณเป็นใครนะคะขอโทษที
Her body stiffening as she began demanding pig's blood. The host tried to keep the conversation going like nothing was wrong, maybe hoping she'd snap out of it, but that wouldn't happen until the very end of the interview. He brought over a Buddha necklace and slipped it around her neck. Then her body relaxed, her voice returned to normal, and the eerie spell was broken, leaving everyone absolutely shocked.
คือตัวนี้ตัวเขาสั่นมากเลยนะออกไปไหมโอเคไหม
Shape-shifting live. It starts off looking like any standard news segment, a reporter standing in front of the camera, calmly delivering the story. But halfway through, something strange happens. Without warning, the reporter bolts out of frame, as if reacting to something we can't see.
Arrest, but the mother says that her 16-year-old daughter, the victim in this case, was also arrested here back on September 18th.
The cameraman quickly adjusts, making sure he stays out of sight for the rest of the shot. People online, however, noticed creepy details. The reporter's skin started to change, and unlike any other glitch, his skin started to deform into a reptilian, scaly-like appearance. That is why some believe he went off camera to allow his human mask to come back on. Since this segment was being broadcast live, the network couldn't take it off the television completely.
Now keep in mind, this is the family story, their account of what they see happened here on campus earlier this month. Unfortunately, we weren't able...
Arrogant robber. On December 14, 2015, a bank in Rochester, Minnesota, had already been robbed once that morning, but less than 45 minutes later, the suspect came back, and this time, a local news crew was already there.
24 hours ago, this bank in North... That guy right there. What? That's the robber. Oh, that's the robber.
KIMT reporter Adam Sallet was standing outside the bank mid-broadcast, describing the earlier robbery. Suddenly, a bank employee rushed into frame, pointing across the street. Without missing a beat, Sallet told viewers they were looking at the robber, then stepped away to call 911. Sallet later explained he didn't capture the suspect on camera because he was filming the segment himself. Police say the man ran off, but officers tracked his footprints through the snow to a nearby parking lot. Within the hour, he was under arrest.
This is live TV, folks. That's the robber just went by, according to the bank employee. So I gotta go here and call 911.
Reporter drama. 10 years ago in June, in the city of Puebla, Mexico, a 24-year-old TV reporter, Lydia Cummings, was there to cover flooding. But instead of wading through the water like the townspeople, she was photographed being carried across a flooded street by a man and a woman. She had her arms wrapped around their shoulders, holding a microphone in one hand and a pink phone in the other, while the two struggled through ankle-deep, murky water. The image spread online within hours, sparking criticism that she seemed more concerned about keeping her shoes dry than showing respect for the community she was reporting on. Her employer, Azteca Puebla, quickly released a statement calling her behavior disrespectful and announced she would no longer be part of their team. Game show deceiver. In 1972, Edward Wayne Edwards walked onto the set of To Tell the Truth, where contestants tried to guess who among three individuals was telling the truth about their identity. Edwards presented himself as a reformed criminal, someone who had turned his life around after years in prison.
Number 3, did you get a proper degree from your studies in prison?
Yes, I did.
What no one knew was that the man sitting before them wasn't reformed at all. He was hiding something far darker. Edwards and his family would move houses quite often, but wherever they moved, crimes would follow, often with no clear suspects. His daughter, April Balacio, from a young age, sensed something wasn't right.
We didn't stay in one place for very long. I think I calculated I had been to 16 different schools throughout from starting kindergarten through my senior year.
In 2009, those suspicions became too strong to ignore. April decided to search her father's name online, pairing it with the details of a few unsolved crimes she remembered from the places they had lived. What she found was alarming. The dates lined up, so did the locations. She contacted investigators in Wisconsin and shared everything.
What's the first crime you remember him being accused of?
The first crime that I remember him being accused of, not doing, but being accused of, would be the arson. I believe my father, for some reason, was upset with the landlord. And he proceeded to try to burn the home down that we were living in. And we just picked up and headed to Atlanta.
One case stood out immediately. The 1980 double homicide of Tim Hack and Kelly Drew in Jefferson County. With her information, authorities reopened the case and submitted preserved evidence for new DNA testing. The results were conclusive. The DNA matched Edward Wayne Edwards. Once arrested, Edwards admitted to 5 homicides in total. Edwards was a dangerous man pretending to be a friendly neighbor. Reptilian preacher. During a routine sermon being live-streamed, something shocking happened. The preacher had just begun speaking when the video feed showed a strange visual shift. His face appeared to distort into something unnatural, green-toned, elongated, and oddly reptilian. Viewers who saw the footage described the face as completely different. The eyes, the skin texture, and the shape of the mouth no longer looked human. A short time later, the same distortion appeared again. This time, it lasted longer.
You were at a place and you saw somebody change their religion to another religion in the temple of that religion, and the father was the priest there. What would you think?
What makes this incident so unusual is that digital glitches, especially on live streams, tend to be chaotic and inconsistent. This distortion followed the same transformation both times. Some viewers believed it was a coincidence caused by streaming issues. Others saw it as evidence of reptilians living among us. What do you think? Open discussion. Australian correspondent Lauren Tomasi was covering the protests happening in downtown LA on the 9th of June, 2025. This was due to outrage over immigration and customs enforcement, or ICE, raids throughout the city. Sounds familiar. She was describing the scene when something struck her on live television. It was a rubber round and happened mid-report. Her reaction was instant. Despite her initial reaction, Tomasi could be heard saying, "I'm good," and later confirmed to 9 News that she and her cameraman were safe. As of me making this video, no agency has taken responsibility for who was the one that fired. Australia's Department of Foreign Trade said that all journalists should be able to do their work safely. Last walk home. At 4:12 a.m., a camera recorded Iwona Wieczorek walking alone along a coastal path, only minutes from home. But not only did she never arrive home, she also mysteriously disappeared. The 19-year-old from Gdańsk, Poland, had been out with friends on July 16, 2010, before deciding to walk back alone from the Jelitkovo area. CCTV showed her carrying her belongings, with no visible signs of distress. In one sequence, an unidentified man was seen walking behind her at a distance, later referred to as a potential witness. She never reached home, which was less than a short walk away. Searches were carried out across nearby areas, including coastal routes and wooded sections, but nothing has ever been found.
Today marks 7 years since Indiana University student Lauren Spear disappeared in Bloomington. And despite thousands of tips, we still don't know what happened to her.
What happened to Amy Bradley? She's a young woman who disappeared on a cruise 28 years ago while vacationing with her family. Did she fall overboard in a tragic accident? Was she kidnapped and sold to a human trafficking ring?
She was seen sleeping on a cruise ship balcony, and by morning, she was gone while the ship was approaching port. Amy Lynn Bradley from Virginia disappeared on March 24, 1998, aboard the Rhapsody of the Seas near Curacao. She had spent the night dancing at the ship's nightclub and was last seen around 5:30 a.m. on the balcony of her family's cabin. By approximately 6 a.m., she was no longer there. Her sandals and cigarettes were left behind, and there were no signs of struggle. The ship docked shortly after, allowing passengers to disembark before a full search was completed.
We've all shared a gut feeling that's never gone away that she's still alive and she's still out there. And what we believe is that Amy was trapped.
Crew members and a band performer were later considered persons of interest, and there were reported sightings in the Caribbean in the years that followed, but none were confirmed.
More than 2 decades later, Amy Bradley's case is considered to be one of the most baffling missing persons cases in modern history.
Empty yacht. He left on a private sailing trip and was never heard from again, leaving friends and family with only questions. Bison Dele, formerly known as Brian Williams, was a 33-year-old former NBA player from Fresno, California, United States. He disappeared in July 2002 during a voyage across the South Pacific aboard his catamaran. He was accompanied by his girlfriend, his brother, and the ship's captain. The yacht was later found abandoned near Tahiti with personal belongings on board, but none of the passengers were present. Police were quick to assume there was foul play involving those on board, pointing to his brother, who was later found deceased along with the captain. Bison Dele's body was never recovered, and the circumstances of his disappearance remain unexplained. Disappearance of Lars Mittank. At just 28 years of age, a man from Germany, Lars Mittank, ran out of the airport and was never seen again. He disappeared on July 8, 2014, at Varna Airport in Varna after a holiday trip with friends. Lars had traveled to the Golden Sands resort area with a group, but shortly before their scheduled return, he was involved in an incident that reportedly led to an ear injury. Due to medical advice, he was told not to board the same flight as his friends and stayed behind to recover. Lars checked into a separate hotel and remained in contact with his mother, expressing concern that he felt unsafe and believed he was being followed. He visited a doctor at the airport on the day of his planned departure, where he underwent a brief examination and was cleared to fly. While waiting inside the airport terminal, surveillance footage showed Lars behaving in a visibly agitated manner before suddenly leaving his belongings behind and running out of the building. The footage captured him exiting the terminal and moving toward a nearby wooded area, which became the last confirmed sighting of him. Authorities initiated search efforts in the surrounding areas, but no trace of Lars was found. His personal items, including his phone, wallet, and passport, were left inside the airport. Some have said that paranoia got to him, but that still doesn't explain why no evidence of Lars has ever been found. What do you think? One small frame.
Well, Sunday marked 18 years since a case that shocked this city, the disappearance of 24-year-old Kyle Fleischman. He was last seen November 9, 2007 in Uptown, outside the Buckhead Saloon, now known as Fitzgerald's.
All it took for Kyle Fleischman to disappear forever was one small gap in surveillance footage. At just the right age of 24, Kyle from Charlotte, North Carolina, disappeared after a night out with friends in the Uptown area. On the 9th of November, 2007, he left a bar alone around 2:20 a.m. CCTV later showed him walking several blocks away, appearing steady and aware of his surroundings. His phone activity continued briefly before stopping. Despite multiple cameras in the area, his movements were not captured after a certain point, leaving a gap detectives could not explain. And that single frame has made this one of the most mysterious human vanishing of America.
I just think he was a victim of a robbery, and it must have got bad, and they took his life. There's condos now, which we tend to believe he might have been buried under there, because at the time it was just open dirt that they were digging for the pipe.
The 9/11 mystery. A doctor was last seen shopping the night before one of the most devastating events in history, and after that, Sneha Ann Phillip was never seen again. The 31-year-old physician from New York City was last confirmed on September 10, 2001, at a Century 21 store near the World Trade Center around 7 p.m. Surveillance showed her purchasing items and leaving alone. She never returned home, and her husband reported her missing the next day. Investigators considered whether she may have been in or near the World Trade Center during the 9/11 incident, but there was no direct evidence confirming her presence there. Despite years of investigation, no confirmed sightings or remains have been found, and her disappearance remains unresolved. Maura Murray. How can a non-fatal car crash lead to someone disappearing without a trace? That is the question that confused police officers and terrified everyone else. Maura Murray was a 21-year-old nursing student from Massachusetts who disappeared on February 9, 2004.
You recall the last time that you spoke with her?
Yes, 3:21 on Saturday before she disappeared. And she called me from UMass, and she was car shopping with my dad. And she told me about a couple of the cars that she liked. And that was the last phone call.
She left her college without notice, and she was last seen driving on Route 112 near Haverhill, where she lost control and crashed her vehicle into a snowbank. Passers-by stopped to investigate and called 911, but even after witnesses saw her, by the time authorities arrived, she was gone. Her wallet, phone, and personal items were all in the car. Police speculated that due to a possible concussion, she wandered into the woods and lost her way, but no evidence of her was ever found.
If you look at a map, Burlington, Vermont, and Bartlett, New Hampshire, the two places she researched, are very different geographical locations. It's unclear where she was going, and she didn't tell anybody. And no one's come forward saying, hey, we had this plan to meet up. And so that's just been something that has weighed on my family heavily for 2 decades, because if we could figure out that piece of the puzzle, maybe we could finish the rest of the puzzle.
I have a theory. What if a passerby saw her state and took her away? Where to, however, is a totally different question. Alien abduction? Frederick Valentich was 20 when he disappeared in October of 1978, but it's his last recording that has disturbed people till this day. While flying a Cessna 182 over the Bass Strait between Melbourne and King Island in Australia, he reported a large object with bright lights moving at high speed above him, stating it was not a conventional aircraft. His last transmission ended with a metallic scraping sound before silence. A search operation covering both sea and air found no wreckage. Investigators suggested possible disorientation or crash into the water, but no evidence confirmed any conclusion, and the disappearance remains unresolved. The Polaroid clue. A Polaroid photo found months later showed a girl bound and looking toward the camera, and many believed it could be Tara Calico, but it was never confirmed. The 19-year-old from Belen, New Mexico disappeared on September 20, 1988. After leaving home for a routine bike ride along Highway 47, witnesses reported seeing a light-colored pickup truck repeatedly following her route before she vanished.
If there's a car running half on the road, half off, 10 miles an hour in a 55-mile-an-hour zone in a remote location, and it's being reported sometimes it's 20 feet directly behind, it certainly shows an indication that whoever was operating that Ford pickup truck was intent on the young lady riding that bicycle.
Her bicycle and personal items were never recovered. In June 1989, the Polaroid was discovered in a Florida parking lot, showing a young female in the back of a van. Investigators examined the image extensively, but no definitive identification was made. However, netizens believe this is Tara Calico, but even if that was true, it has not helped in finding her. Unexplained bar case. Brian Schaefer was a 27-year-old medical student at Ohio State University who disappeared on April 1, 2006 in Columbus, Ohio after a night out with his friend Clint Florence. Brian arrived at the Ugly Tuna Saloona, which was located inside the South Campus Gateway. Surveillance footage showed Brian at approximately 1:55 a.m. standing near the entrance of the bar, speaking with two women, after which he turned and walked back inside. This moment became the last confirmed sighting of him. Police reviewed all available security footage from the bar and confirmed that Brian was never recorded leaving through the main exit. There was construction taking place in parts of the building, which led to the possibility that he could have exited through an unmonitored area, but no evidence was found to confirm that he used such a route. When Brian failed to meet his girlfriend, Meredith Reed, for a planned trip to Miami later that day, he was officially reported missing. Authorities examined multiple possibilities, including accidental circumstances after leaving the bar, foul play, and voluntary disappearance, but none of these theories were supported by conclusive evidence. His case remains unsolved. CCTV mystery. A man mysteriously vanished into thin air in Dublin during the early hours of the morning. He was no longer traceable on any camera, despite being in an area with multiple surveillance points. That gap in movement became the central issue in the disappearance of Trevor Deely. He was 22 years old and worked at the Bank of Ireland. On December 8, 2000, Trevor attended a work Christmas party and briefly went to his office on Haddington Road at around 4 a.m. CCTV footage inside the building showed him speaking with a colleague before leaving again at 4:03 a.m. Weather conditions were poor, and Trevor was seen carrying an umbrella. At around 4:14 a.m., CCTV captured an unidentified individual dressed in dark clothing who was standing near the entrance of the bank prior to Trevor exiting, and later followed Trevor. Trevor was not seen again after this point. Search operations were conducted across Dublin, including routes Trevor would likely have taken to reach his home, as well as nearby waterways such as the River Liffey, but no confirmed evidence was found. The unidentified individual was identified, but no conclusive link to Trevor's disappearance was established. With the final confirmed footage showing him walking away from his workplace and no clear record of where he went, Trevor simply vanished from the face of the earth. Elevator to water tank. A hotel guest was last seen on an elevator camera behaving unusually, and days later she was found in a location guests could not access. Elisa Lamb, a 21-year-old student from Canada, disappeared on January 31, 2013. while staying at the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. Elevator CCTV from that day showed her pressing multiple buttons, stepping in and out, and reacting to something not visible. She was not seen again. On February 19, guests reported issues with water. That's when the staff found her in a rooftop water tank. Authorities concluded there was no evidence of external involvement, but to this day, no one has been able to explain how she gained access to the rooftop, why wasn't she seen, and why was she behaving so erratically. Cold 911 case. A 911 call described a situation that responders could not fully understand.
911 emergency.
Yes, I'm in the middle of the field. It's like we're just pushing guys over. We're out here going towards Javelin on both sides. My truck ran out of gas. There's one car here. The guys taking pictures to the woods. Pretty flirty.
And when they arrived, Brandon Lawson was no longer at the scene. The 26-year-old from San Angelo, Texas, disappeared on August 9, 2013, after leaving home late at night following an argument and running out of fuel on Highway 277 in Bronte. He contacted his brother for help and also placed a 911 call reporting an urgent situation, though details in the call were unclear.
Okay, now run that by.
I talked to him. I surely ran into him.
Ah, you ran into him. Okay.
That's the first guy.
You need an ambulance?
Yeah, no, I need the call.
Okay.
When his brother and a state trooper arrived, Brandon's truck was found, but not him. His phone later lost signal in the area. Searches were conducted across nearby land, but no clear evidence explained his movements after the call, and his case remained unresolved for years before partial remains were later located in the region.
Is anybody hurt? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Mother's last act. A handwritten note from the mother of Timothy Pitson stated that he was safe, but no one would ever find him. The 6-year-old from Illinois was taken by his mother, Amy Fry Pitson, on May 11, 2011, after she removed him from school. Over the next 2 days, she traveled with him across multiple locations, including a zoo and a water park, with surveillance confirming he was with her. On 13th of May, however, she was found deceased in a motel room in Rockford, leaving behind notes. She said that Timothy was with someone who would care for him and that he would not be located. Despite extensive search, he has never been seen, and not even a rumor of his existence has ever been reported. Disappearance of Lauren Spearer.
Today marks 7 years since Indiana University student Lauren Spearer disappeared in Bloomington. And despite thousands of tips, we still don't know what happened to her.
Multiple cameras tracked her movements across the night, but the final minutes were never fully accounted for, and Lauren Spearer disappeared within a short distance of her apartment. She was just 20 years of age and a student at Indiana University when she was last seen in the early hours of 3rd June 2011 in Bloomington. After spending the night with friends, surveillance showed her walking without her shoes and phone after leaving an apartment on College Avenue around 4:30 a.m. She was last observed heading in the direction of her residence, which was only a few minutes away, but she never arrived. Individuals she had been with were identified and questioned, but no charges were filed. Extensive searches produced no physical evidence, and her disappearance remains a total mystery. So what do you think happened to her? Share your theories in the comments below.
What they want now is to find her body and to figure out what happened that night.
Panama Trail disappearances. What happened to Chris Kremers and Lisanne Froon remains a horrifying mystery. The 2 students from the Netherlands disappeared on April 1st, 2014, near Boquete, Chiriquí, after setting out on the Pianista Trail. Initial photos showed them progressing normally, but shortly after, emergency calls were made to local numbers, continuing intermittently over days with no connection. Weeks later, a backpack belonging to Lisanne was found containing phones and a camera. The devices revealed a sequence of night photos taken in darkness and incomplete phone activity logs. Partial remains were later located in the area as well. Authorities suggested they became lost, but the timeline, the pattern of calls, and the recovered images made no sense at all. Many people said they encountered someone or a tribe, and they took them away. No one can say exactly what might have happened to them, but it wasn't good for sure. The vanishing prosecutor.
Years later, the mystery continues into what happened to former Center County District Attorney Ray Gricar. It was a decade ago today when Gricar was reported missing.
Ray Gricar, the 56-year-old district attorney of Center County, Pennsylvania, disappeared under mysterious circumstances on April 15, 2005. He was last seen leaving his office in Bellefonte around 10 a.m., and later that day, his car was found abandoned along a remote road with his wallet, phone, and laptop missing. Investigators discovered no signs of struggle or forced entry in his office or vehicle, and surveillance footage offered no clear explanation of his movements after leaving work.
In recent days, we reached out to a number of people who were close to Gricar, close to the case. Many of them simply didn't want to talk about it. Others just shook their head when we asked about Gricar.
Authorities considered multiple possibilities, including voluntary disappearance, foul play related to his professional work, or accidental causes. But then, his county-issued laptop was discovered in July in the Susquehanna River. Found under a bridge near his abandoned car, the laptop was missing its hard drive, which was later located nearby, but it was too damaged for data recovery. Unlike his car and laptop, Ray Gricar has never been found.
For a long time, the Bellefonte Police Department headed up the Gricar investigation. It was just a few weeks ago when the Bellefonte Chief, Sean Weaver, told us, bottom line, law enforcement doesn't know what happened to Ray Gricar.
Unfinished journey. Stephen Kocher from Colorado was 35 when he disappeared in December of 2009. He had traveled alone to Las Vegas when on 13th of December, surveillance footage captured him walking through the Summerlin neighborhood around 10:30 p.m. He was clearly disoriented and carrying a backpack. Earlier that day, he had checked into a hotel on East Sahara Avenue and made phone calls to family expressing stress over financial and personal issues. His car, a white 2001 Cadillac, was never located, and his backpack, wallet, and personal belongings were also missing. Now, despite all of this, some evidence should have been found. But unfortunately for Stephen, investigators and locals found nothing at all. It's like he vanished into thin air. A lot to consider.
And that's true here in the mountains with the Zeb Quinn case. 12 years ago, the teenager was last seen in Asheville after he left work.
Zeb Quinn from Charlotte, North Carolina, was just 18 when he disappeared on January 2, 2000, and under mysterious circumstances, no less. He was last seen leaving his job at a restaurant on Park Road around 11 p.m. and then stopped at a parking lot to retrieve a car for a friend. Surveillance footage and witness statements indicated he never returned home. His car was later found abandoned with no personal belongings inside. Investigators discovered inconsistencies in the story of a co-worker and friend, Johnny Owens, who was the last person to see him. Owens gave inconsistent statements and was charged with tampering with evidence after admitting to moving Quinn's car, but he was never charged with anything due to lack of direct evidence. Police discovered that Quinn had been involved in disputes over work and owed money to a friend, which fueled theories about foul play.
So many other pieces of information that we have that lead more to the probability of foul play.
People on Reddit do have some interesting things to say. I'll give you time to read these two comments. But Quinn's whereabouts remain unknown, and the case is still unsolved. Lost on a rural road. Brandon Swanson's final words came over the phone as he tried to navigate pitch-black fields and unfamiliar roads, and after that, he vanished completely. The 19-year-old from Marshall, Texas, got his car stuck in a ditch near Porter, Minnesota on May 14, 2008. He called his parents around 1:30 a.m. asking for help as he got lost, but his parents didn't know this was the last time they'll ever hear their son. Soon, Brandon became confused and disoriented in the dark, and the call was cut off completely. Search teams scoured the area, checking fields, waterways, and wooded paths for days, but found no trace of him. He still remains missing even after all these years. If your car ever gets stuck in a ditch, if it's safe, remain inside and call a towing company. If it's not safe, then remain close to your car and call 911 as well. Cruise ship disappearance. Rebecca Corium, 24, from the United Kingdom, vanished on March 22 in 2011 while working aboard the Disney Wonder in the Bahamas. CCTV showed her in a crew corridor early that morning after the call, but she was not seen again. That internal phone call recorded her sounding distressed, and her flip-flops were found on deck. Ship records confirmed she missed her scheduled shift, but the vessel continued its route before the disappearance was formally reported. An investigation was conducted, but no definitive evidence explained whether she went overboard, left voluntarily, or was involved in another incident. Forever walking away. A driver caused a direct collision on an open highway, stepped out without seeking help, and left everything behind, including her identity. This is the mysterious disappearance of Patricia Meehan. After driving the wrong way on Montana Highway 200 near Circle and striking another vehicle head-on, the 19-year-old walked away despite offers of assistance. She was clearly disorientated and avoided talking to concerned passerbys. Her purse, clothing, and personal belongings were found inside her car, and there were no signs she planned to leave. In the months that followed, multiple sightings were reported across Montana and neighboring states, often describing a woman matching her appearance, hitchhiking, and showing confusion, but none were confirmed. Since August 20, 1970, Patricia has been spotted multiple times, but never found. It is possible that due to the collision, she faced some sort of memory loss. It could have pushed her to become an entirely new person with new or no memories. Disappearance of Phoenix. Her car was found running in the middle of a quiet street with the door open, but Phoenix Colden was nowhere nearby. The 23-year-old from Spanish Lake, Missouri, disappeared on December 18, 2011, after leaving home around 3 p.m. in her black Chevy Blazer. Shortly after, the vehicle was discovered abandoned with the engine still on, her purse, phone, and personal items inside, and no signs of a struggle. There was no surveillance footage clearly showing what happened after she left. Investigators noted she had recently withdrawn from college and had limited contact with friends, but no confirmed reason for her disappearance was established. Searches of nearby areas and follow-up leads produced no evidence, and no verified sightings have been reported since, leaving her case unresolved. Most enduring case. The 17-year-old from Scotia, New York, disappeared on June 27, 2004. After leaving a party around 11:30 p.m., he was last known to be heading home along a path near the Mohawk River, a route he was familiar with. The next day, his bike and cell phone were located along the trail, but there were no signs of a struggle or disturbance. Investigators searched the surrounding wooded areas, riverbanks, and nearby neighborhoods, but no physical evidence was recovered. His unexplained vanishing became one of the capital region's most enduring missing person cases and remains under active investigation by the New York State Police. Solo ride vanishing. He set out for a solo bike ride and never returned, leaving behind only his bicycle and personal belongings. Robert Horihan, 54, from Hudson, New York, disappeared on October 30, almost 10 years ago, after leaving home in the late morning. He was last seen riding along the Hudson River waterfront, a route he frequently used. His bike was later found abandoned near a local park with no signs of struggle, and his phone and wallet were missing. Authorities conducted searches of surrounding trails, the river, and nearby roads, but no evidence of his whereabouts was found. Despite multiple tips and follow-up investigations, Robert Horihan has never been located, and his disappearance remains unresolved. Back in 2 minutes. The 52-year-old antiques dealer from Llangollen, Wales, opened her shop on June 16, 1990, and around 12:40 p.m. left a handwritten sign reading, "Back in 2 minutes." But Trevelyan Evans would never be back. She was seen buying an apple and banana, and then a final confirmed sighting occurred near her home on Market Street at about 2:30 p.m. Her dark blue Ford Escort was found later with keys in the ignition, her handbag and jacket inside, and cash and flowers she had planned to take home. There were unconfirmed reports of a woman matching her description, walking out of town and near the river, but none were verified. Police interviewed hundreds of people, checked over 700 vehicles, and searched rivers, fields, and woodlands, but never found her. A mystery man seen with her before she disappeared was drawn up and circulated, but was later ruled inaccurate, and possible connections to other suspects were examined and dismissed. No trace of her whereabouts, or any confirmed evidence has ever emerged, and her disappearance remains one of the most baffling unsolved cases in the UK. Glenn Miller. The famous American big band leader, Glenn Miller, disappeared on the 15th of December, back in 1944, while traveling from England to Paris aboard a U.S. Army Air Force single-engine UC-64 Norseman aircraft during World War II.
Looked like the kind of airplane that Glenn Miller disappeared in. He called the Coast Guard, described it. They said, well, if it's a World War II airplane, it might be a war grave. Just get rid of it.
He vanished over the English Channel in poor weather, and no wreckage or remains were ever recovered. Miller's disappearance sparked speculation about mechanical failure, bad weather, or other wartime hazards, but nothing was confirmed.
The only way to change mystery to history is to come up with solid documentation.
Despite investigations by the military and aviation authorities, his fate remains unknown, and his disappearance is still considered one of the great unsolved mysteries of aviation. Quiet apartment case. Kaylin Lauder disappeared from her apartment with no sign of forced entry, and her belongings were left behind, which made the timeline difficult to explain. The 30-year-old from Murray, Utah, was last seen on 27 September 2014 after attending a church meeting and returning home. Phone activity later that evening suggested she was using it normally, but she stopped responding soon after. When she was reported missing, all essential belongings were found inside, and there were no signs of forced entry or struggle. Nearby surveillance did not clearly show her leaving the building. Investigators searched the area extensively, but no confirmed sightings or evidence explained her disappearance, and her case remains unsolved. Open discussion. Fiona Pender was 25 years old and 7 months pregnant when she disappeared from her flat on Church Street in Tullamore, Ireland on August 23, 1996. She had spent the day before shopping with her mother for baby clothes and was described as happy and looking forward to becoming a mother. At around 6 a.m. on the day she vanished, her partner, John Thompson, saw her at the flat before leaving for work, and Fiona was never seen again. Her passport, clothing, and credit cards were left behind, and there were no signs of a struggle. Garda Síochána, the National Police and Security Service of the Republic of Ireland, launched extensive searches of canals, rivers, bogland, woodlands, and surrounding areas, but found no trace of either one. Early in the investigation, witnesses reported seeing 2 men carrying a large rolled object into the back of a vehicle near the time she disappeared, and another reported a 4x4 driving at speed toward the Slieve Bloom Mountains, but these leads did not lead to a resolution. Fiona's partner and his family were once arrested for questioning, but released without charge. No one has ever been convicted in connection with her disappearance. For years, the case was treated as a missing person inquiry, but in 2025, Gardaí reclassified it as a murder investigation and began fresh searches of open ground in County Offaly based on new information, though her remains have still not been located.